Okay, that works a whole lot better. Oh my God. Uh, Boy, did I sound great. You should have been there. No, you actually were there, and I do apologize for the technical error. I'll probably get fined tonight by the blessed Mary Brockman, my bouncer in chief, who's in the chat role this particular evening. Smooches gracias to you. Every single dollar that goes from the fines of me making technical mistakes on the Exceptional Conservative Show go directly to the Open Heart Closed Case Fund out of Washington D.C. It is intended to help families who have unresolved homicides, missing persons, teen suicides, child abuse cases as well. Uh, Tonight we have with us none other than Brenda Savage. Brenda Savage is the Vice President of Communications with Election Integrity Fund, electionintegrityfund.org. And the reason why we have this great woman with us tonight is because of the less than integral election that we've come out of 2020. Tonight is all about clarification. It is all about making certain that we know exactly what's going on and how we can help in terms of making this process work. Brenda, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Gotta ask you here, 501c4, Election Integrity Fund, simply, how does it help the people of Michigan?
Our goal is to get more people involved in protecting their rights given by the Constitution. Our founding fathers worked hard to build this nation and to give us the tools to protect it. We have seen so many people who do not understand that or recognize that they can help support better to make sure that we have honest integrity in our elections. We have to work together. We have to spread the word. We have to make certain that people recognize the value of that and that we don't give it up. This is our freedom. This is our future for us, for our children, for our grandchildren.
Brenda, there are people who are sitting at home tonight who are a little exasperated by the process that we're going through. They want a quick answer. They want to know, should Donald Trump concede tonight? Should he just stop based on?
Absolutely not.
Okay, tell everybody
Absolutely.
why he shouldn't.
There are still avenues to take. In Michigan, which has one of the most difficult election law structures to deal with, it is required that they get approval from the Board of Canvassers before the legislature can investigate with an audit. We need an independent audit based upon what we know occurred at these different facilities where absentee ballots were being counted. We have so many affidavits from so many people. They cite numbers, they cite names, they cite which absentee voter ballot board they were standing in front of. They know the names of the people who were working there. They can tell you the ballot number that was being challenged. They can tell you how many of those ballots were being challenged. They have so much detail that we cannot ignore these concerns. And the fact that it is being presented that we have no evidence is simply because evidence can't speak. Evidence doesn't present itself to you. You have to go look for it. Now we have the affidavits. The legislature can now order the independent audit that we need. A recount won't help. A recount will only tell us that they counted X number of ballots, and if they count them all again and come up with a similar number, we haven't achieved anything because it doesn't tell us what was legal in there or illegal. What we know is that too many people had birth dates entered on, I believe it was 1/1/1900. Now, if you
Wow.
actually think, yes, if you actually think that those people voted by absentee ballot, it should ring a little bell. And we can verify that. We have another, that was in Wayne County. In Oakland County, we had a poll challenger who was watching the count for a particular city. And after every precinct was counted in that city, the readout was presented to him and it matched what was on the tabulator. So he knew the numbers were correct. 2 days later, he looked at the numbers shown on the computer screen, and even if he added up every number, which was the same number that he had from his printouts, the totals at the bottom were different.
Whoa.
So somebody went in and changed the numbers at the bottom. So even though each entry was correct, if you used a calculator and you added it up, you didn't get the same number at the bottom that was shown in the total. So we're looking at things like that and recognizing that there has definitely been fraud involved here, and we're not pointing a finger to say who, we're only saying how. We need to find out how, and then we need to correct it.
Now, most Americans, Brenda, know of the name George Soros. And they know him as a billionaire who basically attempted to bankrupt the United Kingdom. That's where he got the greatest part of his wealth from. And in addition to that, has made his philanthropic interests the overthrow of the U.S. government. And so there have been attorney generals and other elected government officials who have been funded by George Soros oriented groups. I want to ask you, do you have an example of any type of George Soros money showing up in the elections of Michigan?
It would be very difficult for me to say that specifically.
Yes.
What I will say is that the Dominion equipment has been almost like a shell game tied back to George Soros for funding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know.
What we see is that the company that owns it has changed names and owners a number of times. It keeps being passed on to someone else. So every time there's an investigation or a challenge, we discover that now it's owned by another company, or now it has a different representative. But as we read what's in the media, we're seeing that it leads directly back there to people who have a close relationship with George Soros.
Now, Brenda,
I can't say specifically that I found that. I can only say that it's what I'm reading, it's what I'm observing, but it is consistent.
Now, Brenda, a lot of people are a bit agitated when we talk about votes being tabulated overseas, but we don't want to enter that conversation with you. Let's talk about votes that are done right here with Dominion. Why did Michigan choose to go with Dominion, even though they have had over the past 10 years concerns about its involvement in fraudulent elections? Why did Michigan choose Dominion?
Well, I will say this. Michigan itself did not choose Dominion. Michigan approved Dominion as one of the providers of equipment for vote counting.
Okay.
So what we know is that Hart is another company that is approved, and I believe there's definitely a third one whose name I don't recall at the moment. There may even be a fourth one. But I think in the end, what we discover is that each municipality has to purchase the equipment. And it has very much to do with how big the municipality is, how many voters they have in that group, and what funding they have available from their city or their township to be able to afford these things. So I know, for example, where I live, we have a wonderful clerk, and she has a certain amount of equipment. But based upon the increased absentee vote this year and the availability of funds through Mark Zuckerberg and his wife for the grants provided to various communities to improve access to equipment and training, education for poll workers, and that sort of thing, she actually was able, based upon the numbers presented, to be approved for over $51,000, which helped her purchase one machine so that she had an additional machine to count votes. So what I would say is this: I trust her. I don't think she anticipated that there would be a problem with the machine. And I think that what we're discovering is that of the places having concerns about their vote, the Dominion equipment is significantly used. And we have reports that are very credible from Detroit in the Wayne County absentee ballot count that show that there was internet access, that there were changes being denoted regularly on those tabulators and machines that were reading the votes, and that at various points in time, things like you're being hacked would show up on the screens of all of the computers at once.
Really?
And yes, so that's in an affidavit. I don't have that affidavit in front of me,
Yeah.
but I do know that that has been reported. And there are various other things that occurred that we have not been able to enter into a court case yet. So we're still working in that direction in Michigan. And for these reasons, we really must pursue every avenue.
Brenda Savage, Vice President of Communications with Election Integrity Fund, is with us tonight. And America is uniquely concerned about what's happening in Michigan. I want to go back very quickly to the Dominion product itself because it seemed to be, I don't want to use the word, but I'll use it. There seemed to be some collusion here that election officials were steered towards Dominion, and out of their some out of naivety, others because of kickbacks, they were picking Dominion. Did you hear of any of such corrupted officials in Michigan? Is my question.
I have not heard that specifically tied to an individual in Michigan, but I believe that if Sidney Powell and her investigation, along with a number of other attorneys who are working on these issues, is allowed to continue that research, if that occurred, it will be discovered and presented.
You have trust in Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani, but they don't seem to be winning in the court of public opinion. So a lot of people are saying that Donald Trump is just being vain and cantankerous, that he doesn't want to lose. Is it the role of the court of public opinion to choose the president?
Well, I'll tell you what. I was sitting in Mass a couple of Sundays ago. It was right after the election. And the priest who was saying Mass, who I really like, commented that, well, the election is over. We all have to move forward and get along now. I pulled my phone out of my purse and emailed the pastor of the parish to say, I'm very disappointed. I'm sitting at 5 o'clock Mass right now. This is what was just stated. I said, I did not know that the media chose who won the election. And the response I got a little bit later was, I happen to agree with you. And I appreciated that very much. But what we see is that public opinion is really an unfortunate thing because it spreads like wildfire, and people don't do the necessary research. They don't allow the policy and procedure that we have in place to be carried out. And we have until December 14th here in Michigan to make certain decisions and to do the investigation we need to do. And people are acting like if we don't make certain decisions today, and if we don't announce who the new president is, we're failing. Well, what we're really failing is to do the job that we're able to do and supposed to do to validate that this is accurate. And we use every aspect available to us. So we have the legislature, we have the administrative, and we have the judicial. They all operate independently of one another, but they support one another based upon the premise of law. And it is not up to the media to make the decision. It is not up to you and me to make the decision. It's up to us to do the work, to provide it to our legislators. It's up to us to do the work, to provide it to our judges. It's up to us to do the work, to ask our administrators to cooperate when we see wrongdoing. But it's not up to us to make the decision and dispel a myth that someone else is creating, or to create a myth that we want to convince other people of.
Brenda Savage, there are people tonight who are uniquely concerned that the pandemic was used to abscond with an election. We have
Excuse me.
no problem. Bless you. The president of the United States, who had been saying for 6, 7 months, go to the polls, vote in person. Did it make a difference that people went to the polls and voted in person versus uh, doing the mail-in ballot? Are there discrepancies in both that you notice?
There are discrepancies in both, according to the affidavits I've read. And I know that, again, in Wayne County, people showed up to vote. They had already supposedly received absentee ballots. The poll workers were not calling the county clerk to determine if the ballot had been returned. They were simply allowing people to vote. And
Wow.
that allows then for one person to vote twice. Excuse me.
Yes.
So it's that sort of thing that is a serious concern. If you allow a number of people to vote twice, how many of those are going through? And where do we determine that it's legal or illegal? Or are we going to find that someone else cast that absentee ballot, not the individual who showed up to vote in person? We don't know that until we do an investigation. But we do know that one person should not have two votes.
Quick question for you, Michael. I'm sorry, Mark Zuckerberg and his money have found their way into the election pool. Do you find it a conflict of interest that Facebook censored those who were using or notifying the world about Hunter Biden and the corruption in the Biden family?
Excuse me. I believe that because they're a social media organization, and presumably they're there for people to speak freely, they shouldn't be censoring anything. I think if it's a legal comment, it should not be censored. But we haven't seen that being respected.
Exactly. Brenda, in finality here, there are lots of Americans that are concerned that there's not going to be enough time to have an audit and that an audit won't make a difference. So, why are we going through this? Why an audit?
I believe that the independent audit is essential,
Ah,
not just any audit. We don't want an audit by the people who performed the election activity already. We want an independent audit from people who are not affiliated in any capacity with any political organization and who do not have a relationship with the with the political organizations in the state. We want an independent audit. We want to hire a firm that will say, we are not subscribed to be Democrats or Republicans. We don't work for the Congress in any capacity. We don't work for the courts in any capacity. We do other work, but we are competent to do an audit. And in an independent audit, they will be able to evaluate more information freely with than any of the others could, and the independent audit will allow them to discover more than just numbers of ballots cast.
will there be enough time for an independent audit? Is Donald
I'm so
Trump
sorry.
trying to, wait out the clock per se with an independent audit? Is that what's happening?
Excuse me.
Bless you.
I do believe that if you hire the right team, they can do the job. If we see that ballots can be counted and that we have clerks who certify in the time period they had, we have enough time for an independent audit. We just have to move quickly to get the auditors and set it up.
Now,
That's the profession, to work
now,
with things like that.
now, if the audit were to go start, let's say the middle of the first week of December, and it takes a little bit, and you're getting close to the 14th, is it moral for the state legislature to certify the election, or should they wait for the independent audit?
It's a little difficult to project that, but I would say this. If they have auditors who can do this work, it should be able to be accomplished in the time that is available to them. And if they recognize as professionals doing the audit that they need more individuals working on it, that's all they have to do is bring a few more people in. They're
Yeah.
capable of doing that. So I don't find that a reasonable excuse to not get it done. And I don't think that we should project that it can't be done, and so we're not going to try.
I love the term that you use there,
Business, and
an
someone offered you a
excuse.
contract, you would find a way to get the work done if you wanted to be paid for fulfilling that job. I
Heck
pretty
yeah.
much think that we can do the same thing with an audit team.
Listen, I want to wish you the happiest of Thanksgiving because I know that you've been working virtually 24 hours a day since before November the 3rd, and certainly will be working that way even after the Thanksgiving holiday. Is there something that you want to tell the American people about Michigan and its election before you come back in the next couple of weeks to talk with us about where we are with Michigan?
What I want to say is that we need to be calm, we need to be patient, we need to pray, we need to remember that the most important thing is to be honest and to have integrity, not just in the vote, but in our daily living. We have to treat one another with respect, and we have to reach out to make friends with people we have not yet met, to know that we share values. And if we can recognize that in each other, we will move well into the next phase of this world after the election. We don't know the outcome, but we are here to make sure that the outcome is an honest one.
I
We
thank
will
God.
continue to work toward that end through the Election Integrity Fund.
I thank God for the work that you do. How can people around the country who want to see justice served become a part of the Election Integrity Fund?
Oh, I thank you for putting it up on the screen. If they go to electionintegrityfund.org, it's all right there. And we have a video that shows one of our trainings that we did, almost 2 hours long, but we trained more than 500 people. So I'm asking to have people come join our organization, continue to move forward with us to promote integrity nationwide for the vote. If they can make a donation, we certainly appreciate that. We are a nonprofit organization, but it is not inexpensive to do the work we're doing,
Yeah.
and it is our goal to continue forward. So we would love to grow and build and make new friends.
I said that would be my last question, but I'm an intrigued individual regarding EIF. Uh, do you find it disappointing that it's easier for Democrat Marxists to get people emotionally to get involved with election and volunteer than it is for EIF to get Republicans involved? Did you find that this year?
Excuse me, I'm so
No,
sorry.
no.
I think what we see is that the involvement through the other party is that much of it is funded. So spending money to help people achieve those goals is significant. And as I said, there's someone who spends, a lot of his billions to employ others to do this work. And I would say this: people change the issue regularly. For example, they will tell you in Detroit the problem was race. No, the problem was dishonesty in the vote. The problem was not race. People are not racially motivated. They're there to vote. They're there to make certain that the vote is counted properly and that the vote is entered properly. This isn't about race. We don't have those problems in Detroit. I honestly believe that we are a city in Detroit where people are peaceful and caring of one another. I don't believe that race is the issue unless someone brings it in from the outside. Whatever we see in Detroit, whether it's a criminal activity, I don't honestly believe it's generally based in race issues.
I'm thankful that you mentioned that. I didn't. But a lot of people have brought up the fact that Donald Trump is asking for audits in Philadelphia, asking for audits in Detroit, asking for audits in Milwaukee, and the mainstream media, Fox News, and others on the left have commented that it was racially motivated. It's not racially motivated. These are where the errors are. Am I correct?
I agree with you absolutely. And I will say this: where the errors are, again, they're honest errors very often. And we want to correct those errors. We're not trying to point fingers at individuals who made them. We're simply saying if an error occurs and we can correct it, we need to. because that's how you get an honest, accurate vote count. And it's like doing a science project. When you have a deadline for your science project, you do the best to meet that deadline. If you discover as you're approaching it, oh gosh, time's running out, but I see these errors in here. Well, we're not going to correct those errors. We're just going to come up with an answer. Any answer will do. Well, you don't do that in science. It's objective. You have to have accuracy. Why are we treating this vote and this election any differently? It makes no sense.
There you go. Brenda, happy Thanksgiving to you, your family, the people of
Thank you so
Michigan.
much, Ken. It's a pleasure to talk with you.
Great pleasure talking with you. Hopefully you'll be available after Thanksgiving. We're going to really follow up with you. God bless you.
Well,
Thank you
please
so
do be
much.
in touch. We would love that.
Thank you so much. Brenda is with us, ladies and gentlemen, and her organization, Brenda Savage Organization, is Election Integrity Fund, Vice President of Communications, electionintegrityfund.org. We will be back with more of the best in urban conservative talk right after this.